children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Now, if you don't stop giggling and fidgeting, Auntie will let her vast Doberman guard dog out to play. He hasn't been fed for 2 whole days. We don't want a repeat of last week when you were noisy at one end and totally out of control at the other, do we? That's better, children. On to this week's tale, entitled Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. Are you sitting comfortably? No? Well, tut-tut. I'm going to start anyway. Once upon a time, in a beautiful city in far-off China, a ragged urchin called Aladdin used to play in the streets. His father would try to make him work, but Aladdin was an idle but lazy boy. He wouldn't even help out in his father's shop. Having to do all the work himself proved too much for the poor old man. And one day, he died. Just the once. Several weeks later, Aladdin met a wealthy stranger who seemed to know all about what had happened. The wealthy stranger was in fact an evil magician who wanted to use Aladdin for a nasty scheme and then kill him. "Greetings, nephew," he said to Aladdin. "I am your father's brother, and I will pay you handsomely for just 1 day's work. Here are a few yen to be going on with. If you want the rest, meet me at the mouth of the enchanted cave at sunrise tomorrow." "Fair enough," said Aladdin. "But why are you talking like that?" Aladdin rushed home and told his mother the story. She blushed. "Oh, yes, Uncle. I didn't think he'd be showing his face around here for a while." "Incidentally," added the boy, "he asked me to say, 'Remember the go-go bar,' or something." "Ah, I wonder what he meant," stammered his mother. "Anyway, eat your tea while it's still hot." "But this chicken's rubbery," said Aladdin. "Oh, glad you like it," said his mother with a smile. Early the very next morning, the evil magician stood waiting at the mouth of the enchanted cave, thinking of his plan. "Aladdin will fetch the legendary magic lamp from the depths of the cave," he laughed to himself. "Once he has given the lamp to me, I will inherit its powers. Then," he said in a loud voice, "then I will push the stupid boy inside and block his escape with these huge boulders." As well as talking to himself, he would break wind if he thought nobody was listening. This he did. "Morning," said Aladdin. "I do hope you haven't been waiting long." "Oh, pardon me," said a very big magician. "I thought I was alone." The magician explained that he wanted Aladdin to enter the cave and search for an old oil lamp. He should then return with the lamp and then go back into the cave and await further instructions. A very nervous Aladdin vanished into the darkness. "Thank goodness for that," said the magician, breaking wind again. After much stumbling around, Aladdin came across the lamp. He picked it up and inspected it. "My," he said, "what a dirty old lamp." He then pulled a rather crusty handkerchief from his trouser pocket and began polishing the tatty relic. Suddenly, there was a cloud of smoke, a flash of light, and a loud rumble could be heard for miles. Outside the cave, the magician stood with a rather worried expression on his face. "I don't remember eating that," he said. The more Aladdin rubbed the lamp, the louder the rumble, and the thicker the smoke. Then all at once, nothing. "I wonder what all that's about," muttered a somewhat confused young man. And the moral of this story is, if God had intended us to smoke, he'd have given us kippers. That's all for now, children. Bye!
Auntie!
Hello, children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Now, do settle down, or Auntie will put her umbrella somewhere very unpleasant, and then open it. That'll make your eyes water. Now, today's story is called Music Soothes the Savage Beast. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. Once upon a time, there lived a brave explorer named Rodney. One day, Rodney sat in his room just twiddling his thumbs. He was very bored. He hadn't been exploring for ages, and now he was so itching for a mountain to climb, an ocean to sail, or a country to discover. He sighed as he flicked through the pages of his photo album. Seeing all the pictures he'd taken on earlier expeditions made him itch even more. But he didn't scratch. Well, it might have spread. Suddenly, Rodney jumped to his feet and shouted, "I've got it!" which comes as no surprise. "I'll go to the jungle," he laughed as he rushed around packing his case and all his photographic equipment. "I'll go to the jungle and I'll take the most fantastic wildlife pictures the world has ever seen. Then I'll sell them to a Sunday magazine for £3 million and then retire." Rodney would often talk to himself. Well, Rodney had a bit of a screw loose, actually. Anyway, remembering the old saying, music soothes the savage beast, he bundled his cassette player and his favourite Kenny Rogers tape into his bag and set off for the deep, dark jungles of Africa. 2 days later, he was at last back in the wilds of the most exciting continent in the world. It was getting late. He pitched his tent on high ground, lit his tilly lamp, and settled down for the night with a good Mills and Boone. He woke up bright and early the next morning. That was another of his little problems. Rodney would often mess himself in his sleep. After a jolly good wash and a bowl of cornflakes, he set up his camera, started his cassette player, and prepared for work. To his astonishment, only halfway through Lucille, along came not just a rhinoceros, but a pair of zebras. Then a crocodile, 3 giraffes, and an enormous python. "Lovely, simply lovely," said one of the giraffes. "Couldn't agree more," said another. "I simply adore Kenny Rogers," hissed the python. "Bless my soul," said the first giraffe to the second. "A talking snake." The tape played on. "Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town," "Daytime Friends," "Lady," and the animals came in their hundreds. Elephants, tigers, bears, fruit bats, a David Attenborough, gorillas, spider monkeys, leopards, jaguars, a Ford Capri, bullfrogs, wildebeests, all sitting in a circle around Rodney, who was taking photographs non-stop. "Music certainly does soothe the savage beast," said the excited young explorer as he reloaded his camera. He just couldn't believe his eyes, which incidentally were too close together for my liking, and his eyebrows met in the middle. Anyway, he couldn't believe his eyes. Coward of the County had just started when a lion appeared and strolled to where Rodney sat fixing his wide-angle lens to his Pentax. That's a camera, by the way. The lion sniffed the cassette player, sniffed... "What on earth did you do that for?" gasped one of the tigers. "Pardon? You'll have to speak up," said the lion after a rather loud belch. "That's all for now, children. Bye."
The C90 Cassette is nice radio from the BBC.
Hello, children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Now, do settle down and pay attention, or Auntie will show you a wicked little trick she learnt at school using a breeze block, a pair of pliers, and a nail file. That'll wipe the smile off your chops. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. Today's story is called The Frog Prince. Many, many years ago, long before the days of open-toed sandals and those dreadful cardigans, there lived a beautiful princess called Sharon. Although extremely pretty, Princess Sharon was most unhappy and very, very lonely. She was lonely because people didn't wish to have anything to do with a princess who ate her own toenail clippings, nor did people like the way she de-waxed her ears and smeared it under the table. One day, Princess Sharon decided to go for a walk in the woods. She dressed in her favorite frock, put on her boots No. 7 lipstick, and put a dab of Chanel behind each of her 3 ears. After preparing a packed lunch consisting of 2 jam tarts, an apple, and some toenail clipping sandwiches, she set off. She felt very sorry for herself as she strolled through the undergrowth. "Oh, why does nobody love me?" the princess asked as she looked up at the shafts of golden sunlight cutting like swords through the lush green leaves above. "When, oh, when will my prince come along?" She rested on a fallen tree trunk and shed a tear. Her knicker elastic was a little too tight and was cutting into her waist. "I'll find myself a bright sunny spot," she thought, "and eat my packed lunch. That'll cheer me up." And up she got, not noticing what she'd been sitting in for the past 3 minutes. Yummy, yum, yum, toenail clipping sandwiches, my favorite. It wasn't long before Princess Sharon came across a tiny pond. She sat down at the water's edge and began tucking into her food. She couldn't help feeling that she was being watched. She looked around, and sure enough, there on a lily pad was a little green frog. "Hello, little frog," she said, smiling. "Ribbit," replied the frog. "Would you like to share my toenail clipping sandwiches?" "Oh, Ribbit, Ribbit, Ribbit," said the excited little creature. The 2 of them sat down for an hour or more eating all the goodies in the lunchbox. "It'll be getting dark soon," said the princess. "I'd best be getting home or I'll miss Wogan." "Ribbit, Ribbit," said a rather saddened amphibian. "Ribbit." Princess Sharon smiled. "You are a funny little thing," she said, picking him up. "I would like to thank you for being such wonderful company." With that, she kissed him. There was a curious humming sound, a flash of light, a cloud of green mist, and the little frog turned into the most handsome prince Sharon had ever seen. "My word," she exclaimed, "a handsome prince, just what I've been looking for." "You have, with but one kiss, broken the spell put on me by the wicked old witch. I thank you from the bottom of my heart," announced the handsome prince, with a twinkle in his bright blue eyes. "Oh, handsome prince, marry me," begged Princess Sharon. "Marry me." "Bog off, darling," replied the handsome prince. "I'm not going to marry some silly sod who goes about kissing frogs." "That's all for now, children. Bye."
Well, I think Auntie's getting just a bit out of control. They're getting a bit rude. This is not on. Stand by then.
Stephen Buckley's C90 Cassette.
Hello, children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Now, do settle down, children, or Auntie will introduce you to Uncle Thomas, the schizophrenic dentist. Now, today's story is called Eric the Banana. Many, many years ago, when Cliff Richard was only 47 and was called Dover Dick, think about it, darlings, and corned beef wasn't expensive, but colour televisions were, when a portion of chips would cost only 3pence. Do you remember the good old 3penny piece? I don't. And beautiful trams rumbled through the busy street lined with colourful shops, their orange and green canopies shading the window displays. Cartwheels clattered, hooves clopped, and every horseman manure dappled the dusty cobbled snow. A time when the butcher would gladly give you a bone for the dog, a fair exchange, if you ask me. A time when we'd all have to bath in the old tin tub in front of the fire, but not all at once. When our houses were so cold, condensation would form on the outside of the windows, and in the winter,
Father would suck an extra strong mint and keep us warm by breathing on us. When Christmas morning was a succession of disappointed squeals as children peered into their stockings, only to find a pencil, an orange, a piece of coal, a chocolate Santa left over from last year, and a corn plaster. When King George was still on the throne, and there was a long queue fidgeting outside, shouting, "Hurry up in there, George! I can't hang on much longer." And it's there, at Buckingham Palace, that our story takes place. Down in the kitchen, Cook was sitting with the butler. "Why does nothing at Storytime ever happen?" asked Cook, peering through the window. "I've no idea," replied the butler. "I've no idea." Then all at once, Eric, the banana, walked past. "Looks like rain," said the cook. "Looks like a banana to me," said the butler. "That's all for now, children. Bye."
Hello, children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Now, do be good, or Auntie will shove your teeth so far down your throat you'll have to clean them through your bottom. Today's story is called Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, there lived a young man named Jack. He and his mother shared a tumble-down cottage just out of town. They were very poor. All they possessed was a cow. One day, Jack's mother went to the larder, and to her horror, found it to be empty. "Oh, Simon!" she cried. "No supper for us tonight, I'm afraid." "It's Jack, actually, Mother," said Jack. "Well, whatever your name is, we've no food, we've no money. What are we to do?" "Mother, please don't upset yourself. Something will turn up. We've been waiting for something to turn up for the past 6 years. I know. We'll sell the cow." His mother smiled and rubbed her hands together. "Tomorrow morning at first light, take Ethel to the market and sell her." "It's Daisy, Mother. Ethel is your sister." "Oh, yes," Jack's mother. "So she is." Emmy rode up. The very next morning at first light, Jack took the cow to market. Once there, he met a farmer. "Good day," said the farmer. "How much might you be asking for this cow, Simon?" "It's Jack, actually." "Odd name for a cow," said the farmer, stroking his beard. "No," said Jack. "I'm Jack. The cow is called Daisy, and would you mind not stroking my beard? We've only just met." "Sorry," said the farmer. "So, young sir, how much would you like for this splendid creature? £10,000? £250,000? Jack thought for a moment. "A handful of beans would do me," he said. "Very well," agreed the farmer, taking 6 beans from his coat pocket. Jack took the beans, thanked the farmer, and returned home. He ran into the kitchen. "Mother," he yelled, "look, I've sold the cow for 6 beans." "Oh, terrific!" said his mother. 6 beans. That lot of good, that'll do us." And with that, she took Jack to his room, beat him black and blue, and kneed him in the privates. "Let that be a lesson to you," she screamed. Then she ran to the kitchen, picked up the beans, and threw them out of the window. The next morning, Jack awoke and looked out of his bedroom window. To his astonishment, there was an enormous beanstalk. It stretched high into the sky and vanished into the clouds. "My," exclaimed Jack, "looks like rain again." He ran downstairs, through the kitchen and into the garden. He stood at the foot of the beanstalk and looked up at its beautiful leaves. "Wow," he said. "I wonder what's at the top." He then began to climb into the unusual greenery. Up and up and up until his tumble-down cottage seemed nothing more than a tiny speck below him. He noticed his mother in the garden. "Simon," she yelled, "come down here and mend the microwave." "I'll mend the microwave in a little while," replied Jack. "When I
I've discovered what's at the top of this. Suddenly, Jack lost his grip and plunged to a painful death. Ho, ho, said his mother. Not my day, is it? That's all for now, children. Goodbye.
Thank you, Auntie Muriel. Very sweetly read. I enjoyed that. Very nice indeed.
Oh, dear.
Now that moment you've all been waiting for. Here's Auntie.
Hello, children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Please behave, or Auntie will be forced to hold you underwater until you calm down. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. Today's story is called The Princess and the Courgette. There was once a prince who wanted to marry a princess. Not any old scrubber, but a real princess. So he travelled all over the world in search of one. He found there were plenty of princesses, but the prince was never sure if they were real or not, but had a great deal of fun trying to find out. There was always something not quite right about them. So feeling very sad and rather tired, the prince returned to the palace. One evening, there was the most terrible storm. There was thunder and lightning, and the rain poured down in torrents. Indeed, it was a dreadful night. In the middle of the storm, somebody knocked at the palace door, and the old king himself went to investigate. He opened the door in his nightgown, a rather odd place to have a door, if you ask me, and saw a beautiful princess standing outside. She was in a sorry state. The water streamed from her hair and clothes. Her skirt was drenched, and her T-shirt was clinging to her body, and, well, never mind. But all the same, she said she was a princess. The queen overheard. Well, she thought, we shall soon see if that is true. The queen went into the spare bedroom. She took off all the bedclothes and laid a single courgette upon the bedstead. She then instructed the servants to pile 20 mattresses on top of the courgette, which, incidentally, is a small member of the cucumber family. And up on top of all these mattresses, the princess had to sleep the night. In the morning, the queen asked her, "Did you sleep well, Chuck?" "Oh, terribly badly," replied the princess. "I hardly closed my eyes all night. The prince kept knocking on my door." The queen was horrified. "What?" she screamed. "The prince?" "Yes," said the princess. "In the end, I just had to let him out. By the way," added the princess, pulling the courgette from under the mattress, "this is yours." "Bless my soul," exclaimed the queen, blushing. "I've been looking for that everywhere. I don't suppose you've got a light?" The princess shook her head. "Would you mind not shaking my head?" said the queen, and then hurried away to the kitchen to return a slightly bruised vegetable. On the way, she bumped into the prince. "You!" she yelled. "Mother, I can explain," said the worried prince. "Well, I'm waiting," shouted the queen with her hands on her hips. "A courgette," explained the prince, "is a small member of the cucumber family." That's all for now, children. Bye!
Between 6:30 and 9 o'clock in the evening. Well imagined. I can indeed.
Hello, children. Hello. Welcome to another story time. Do sit quietly and pay attention, or Auntie will poke you in the eye with this hat pin. We wouldn't want that now, would we? Now, today's story is called The Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time, Mrs. Duck was sitting on her nest, keeping warm a clutch of 3 eggs. All at once, there was a pecking sound. Peck, 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 tap, 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 and the 3 little eggs cracked open. Mrs. Duck looked down and saw 3 little ducklings. 2 of them were fluffy and oh so sweet, but the 3rd was extremely ugly and a very drab colour. My goodness,
disgraceful-looking creature you are. I couldn't possibly love you. The other ducklings had a jolly good laugh. Throw him out, they cried. What a splendid idea, said Mrs. Duck. I think I will. And with that, she hurled the ugly duckling as far away as possible. And don't come back, she snapped. We don't want the neighbours talking. The tearful little mite waddled slowly down the lane with his head hung low. It wasn't long, but that was the least of his worries. Very soon, he came across lots of little ducklings all playing together on a pond. Hello, said the ugly duckling. May I join in with your fun and games? Golden Bennett, exclaimed one of the ducks. Are you hideous or what? Well, I suppose I am. And you expect us to let you play with us? And all the ducklings laughed and laughed. And one of them laughed so much he vomited all over his friend. Get lost, they shouted. We don't want you here. The poor little ugly duckling was so upset, he ran away as fast as his ridiculous legs could carry him. Very soon he came across another pond, and there were more ducklings playing. Hello, said the ugly duckling. Would you mind if I join in with your fun and games? At once the little duckling burst into uncontrollable laughter. I've heard of webbed feet, said one, but never a webbed face. If beauty is only skin deep, said another, you must have been born inside out. And with that, they chased the ugly duckling away. He ran for miles and miles. Just as he was beginning to think he could go not another step, a strange and wonderful thing happened. This tiny, ugly duckling turned into the biggest and most beautiful lane you've ever seen. There on the soft grass verge he flopped down and gasped for breath. Good day, said a gentle, friendly voice. Are you all right? The ugly duckling looked up. There before his very eyes was the most pretty duckling in the whole world, smiling at him. Don't be shy, she said. Aren't you going to tell me to get lost? He asked.
Now, what are the prizes again?
Why should I? She laughed. Well, everyone else has. Nobody wants to be my friend. I'll be your friend, she said, patting him on the head. So don't look so sad. Really? Quacked the ugly duckling. Do you mean it? Of course I do. You seem so very troubled. Why don't you take off that stupid mask and tell me all about it? Instantly, the ugly duckling began to cry. It's not a mask, he wept. It's me. I'm ugly. What am I to do? Don't worry, came the caring reply. I have an idea. The ugly duckling watched his pretty little friend rummaging through her handbag. Here, she said, and pulled out a revolver and shot him. There. I do so hate to see my fellow ducks suffer. That's all for now, children. Goodbye.
Settle down at the back, please.
Hello. Welcome to Storytime. Settle down or Auntie will punch. That's better. Now, darling, today's story is called Sammy the Sparrow. Sammy the Sparrow. I won't tell you again, children. Thank you. Sammy the Sparrow was a funny little thing. He was rather skinny. He had sticky out feathers and an enormous beak. In fact, he looked quite like Rod Stewart. Sammy didn't sing either. One day, Sammy the Sparrow left his little nest and flew off to the roof of the village hall. He had arranged to meet his best friend Paul, the bluetooth there, at 3:30. They'd often met there to share a few crumbs and sometimes a peanut or two. Sammy looked at his watch. It was 3:45, and there was no sign of Paul. Oh dear, dearie me, said Sammy to himself. Oh dear, 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 dearie me. Oh dear, said Sammy. peered over the guttering. Sure enough, there on the grass stood Paul. Hello, Paul, said Sammy. Jolly nice of you to show up. Where the hell have you been? It's such a nice day I decided to walk, replied Paul. Sorry. Walk? Snapped Sammy. If God had intended us to walk, he'd have given us proper feet. And it's no good you standing there sulking. Well, come on up here, if you can remember how to fly. Paul fluttered up to the roof and landed beside Sammy. What's wrong now? Asked Sammy. I've forgotten the nuts, said Paul, hanging his head. I've met some tips in my time, but you really take the biscuit. I don't suppose you forgot to break the foil on a few milk bottles on the way here, did you? Are we having biscuits? Asked he. No, we are not. And with that, Sammy flapped his wings, vanished into the blue. He was furious. So much so that he wasn't looking where he was going and flew right into the telegraph wires. Feathers went everywhere. He fell like a stone and landed at a tiny crumpled heap in a field. His head was completely still. He couldn't move. What was I going to do? He asked himself. It'll be dark and cold soon. The sun began to sink behind the hill. A chilling breeze was sweeping across the field. Sammy shivered. He was cold as ice. He was beginning to think that he'd not survived the night. When a cow walked by, nibbled at the grass, turned round, and did something rather unpleasant over Sammy. I heard of a pat on the head, said Sammy, gasping for breath. This is ridiculous. Although it wasn't the ideal blanket, it did keep the little sparrow warm until the next morning, when Paul the blue-tipped flew by. He would have walked, but it was raining. Paul! spluttered Sammy. Sammy? chirped Paul. Where are you? I'm down here. Oh, my word, exclaimed Paul. What in heaven's name? Could you get me out rather than flap around making a fuss? It looks as if it's set hard, said Paul. I'll get some help. And off he went. By this time, Sammy was at the brink of despair. He was beginning to think that he'd be there forever. Then all at once, an enormous black cat came by. Hello? What do we have here? Hello? Ran into a savannah last night. Best I pull you out and give you a bit of a wash. Sammy wasn't altogether too impressed with the idea of being helped by a cat, but at the same time didn't much fancy the idea of being stuck in a Cadillac for another hour. The cat pulled the sorry Sparrow from the heap, which by now, the prophet, took him down to the stream, washed him, and ate him. And the moral of this story, children, is he who does something